Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today, because honestly, we're going to unpack something truly life-changing. We're going to build a completely new blueprint for your mindset, and we'll be using the timeless personal development philosophies of the legendary Earl Nightingale. Look, if you've ever felt like you're capable of so much more, or maybe you just feel kind of stuck in a loop of endless, exhausting routines, you are exactly where you need to be right now. So let's dive right in.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll be hitting number 1, the untapped mental gold mine. Number 2, the strangest secret. 3, your acres of diamonds. 4, the magic word, attitude. And finally, number 5, the law of service.
All right, part 1, the untapped mental gold mine. Let's kick this off with a pretty provocative question. How much of your actual mental capability do you think you're genuinely using every single day?
5%. Yep, just 5%. Eminent psychologists and educators estimate that the average person operates on 5% or even less of their actual infinite mental capacity. I mean, really think about that for a second. Everything you have in your life right now, your job, your relationships, your home, it's all the result of using a tiny, tiny fraction of your brain power. Your mind is quite literally an undiscovered gold mine. But if we have all this amazing potential, why aren't we using it? Where exactly is all that mental energy going?
Well, frankly, it's being entirely drained by worry. Look at this breakdown. 40% of the things we worry about, they literally never happen. 30% are past events that we cannot possibly change. 12% are needless health worries, and 10% are just petty, miscellaneous anxieties. That leaves a measly 8% that are real, legitimate problems. We are squandering 92% of our valuable time, energy, and brain power on absolute illusions. We are exhausting our internal gold mine on things that just don't matter.
Which brings us perfectly to part 2, the strangest secret.
So, if we want to stop leaking our energy into needless worry, how do we redirect it to actually become successful? Well, Earl Nightingale famously called this the strangest secret. To understand it, we have to look at how society naturally splits. First, you've got the 95%, the conformists. Surveys show if you ask 20 people why they get up and go to work, 19 of them won't really know. They just do it because everyone else is doing it. They're basically playing an unrewarding game called follow the follower, just sort of reacting to life. But then you have the 5%, the successful ones. These people are deliberate. They pursue highly individual goals and they choose to create their path rather than blindly competing in the rat race. So what makes them so different?
Here it is. We become what we think about. I want to let that breathe for a second because it's absolutely crucial. Throughout history, great philosophers and teachers have argued about almost everything, but they unanimously agree on this one single truth. Your mind is exactly like fertile soil. It simply returns whatever you plant in it. If you plant a defined, worthwhile goal, your life is going to move toward it. But if you plant confusion, fear, and worry, your life is going to become a manifestation of that exact anxiety. Your dominant thoughts are literally the architects of your destiny.
But let's clarify what this actually means in practice, right? Because success can be a pretty loaded word. Success is simply the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. That's it. It has nothing to do with fame or massive wealth, well, unless that's your specific goal. A school teacher who deliberately set out to teach, that is a success. A person running a corner gas station because that was their chosen goal, success. It just means knowing what you are doing and deliberately working toward a predetermined goal rather than just drifting along.
Moving on to part 3, your acres of diamonds.
Now that we know we need a goal, you might be wondering, where do I find the opportunity to achieve it? Do I need to quit my job, move to a new city? Well, there's this amazing story about an African farmer who was so desperate for wealth that he actually sold his entire farm to go wandering the continent looking for diamond mines. He never found them and sadly ended his life in despair. But get this, the guy who bought his farm found a strange rock in a stream on that exact property. It turned out to be one of the largest diamonds ever found. The original farmer had literally owned acres of diamonds, but he sold them for pennies because he didn't realize that diamonds, in their rough state, don't look like polished gems. The takeaway here is profound. Your current work, your current environment, it already contains the riches you seek. You just have to take the time to intelligently explore it.
It's kind of like the pumpkin in the jug. A farmer once poked a tiny, growing pumpkin into an empty glass jug. Eventually, the pumpkin filled the jug and completely stopped growing. When the farmer finally broke the glass, the pumpkin was totally stunted, taking the exact shape of its prison. And the crazy part? We do this to ourselves. We poke our own immense potential into these tiny glass jugs of self-imposed limits. We blame our jobs, our companies, or the economy, but the absolute truth is we are the ones limiting our own growth. Truly outstanding people see their current situation as a massive opportunity for development.
Part 4, the magic word, which is attitude.
So, how do we break out of that glass jug? How do we start mining our own acres of diamonds? Well, it all comes down to a single magic word that determines the results we get from life, and that word is attitude. Think of your environment as a merciless mirror. The world plays no favorites, it's completely impersonal. You cannot change your environment, your income, or your relationships without first changing yourself. The world just acts as a mirror, reflecting your internal expectations right back at you. If you radiate confidence, purpose, and this genuine expectation of success, your environment will warp to match it.
So I've got a challenge for you to prove this to yourself. It's the 30-day attitude test. Step 1. Act as though you already possess the success you seek. Actions trigger feelings just as much as feelings trigger actions. Step 2. Treat everyone you meet as the most important person on earth, because, honestly, to themselves, they are. Step 3. Step out every single morning radiating confidence, well-being, and an expectant attitude. Commit to this for just 30 days, and you will totally magnetize your environment. You'll be blown away by how fast irritations just vanish and new opportunities start falling right into your lap.
And that leads us to our final section, Part 5, the Law of Service.
As we start seeking out our goals with this new attitude, we really have to understand the underlying mechanics of the universe. We have to look at the foundational law of nature that governs absolutely all economic and personal rewards. Imagine one of those giant old-school apothecary scales. On one side, you have the cause, which is your service. On the other side, you have the effect, which are your rewards. These scales will always eventually balance out perfectly. Your daily contribution directly dictates your financial income. The quality and care you put into your work directly dictates your inner satisfaction. Over-delivering value, that provides your long-term security. If you are ever unhappy with your rewards in life, you simply must examine your service. You can't demand heat from a fireplace without tossing in the wood first.
And when we talk about service, we have to be super clear about who we're actually serving. No matter what your job title is, from the absolute top CEO down to the newest intern, you only have one true boss, the customer. They are the ones buying your home, paying for your car, and funding your entire life. Money is just an instrument traded for your production. If you want to increase your prosperity, it hinges entirely on treating this ultimate boss perfectly and delivering a service that commands respect and repeat business.
Okay, we've covered some really profound stuff today. Let's make it highly actionable. Here's a daily exercise that will help you tap into that 95% of unused mental capacity we talked about. Dedicate just 1 hour every single day. Sit down with a completely blank sheet of paper. Write your primary goal clearly at the top. Then, literally force your brain to come up with 20 possible ways to improve the work you currently do. Trust me, it's going to be hard at first, but 20 ideas a day is 100 ideas a week. That is over 5,000 ideas a year dedicated solely to increasing your service. Just one of those ideas could be a total game changer for your life.
So, I want to leave you with a final, pretty powerful question to end on. We've established that the human mind is infinitely powerful, and the strangest secret of life is that we truly do become what we think about most of the time. You are the architect here. You've got the tools. So I challenge you. What will you choose to think about today? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Start digging into your own mental goldmine, and I will see you next time.